I've been working with two incredible people who are here with us today, a part of this community, and they've agreed to come up and share their Dear World portrait and the message behind it. So I took them through this facilitation over the phone, so we haven't even spent that much more time than you've had together. And what they're going to do for us is model that with just a few words, there is a story in each and every one of us. So give them a round of applause preemptively for doing this. It takes a lot of courage to come up and tell a story that only you can tell in front of a group of strangers. The first community storytellers, what I like to call them, is Bryan Breckenridge. Bryan is the founding executive director of Box.org. He's also facilitates a conversation called Belief Energy. He's a Kansas Jayhawk. We won't hold that against him because my Oregon Ducks beat them in the Elite Eight. But he's an incredible, incredible man. And everyone welcome Mr. Bryan Breckenridge.
In 1995, in a hot summer in Kansas, my life was a mess. It was a standard college summer, drinking too much, no money in my pockets, working at a restaurant where everybody was miserable, doing my best to stay in a summer class, living in an apartment with way too many friends. The summer spiraled. It got worse and worse. I found a deep depression start to turn more into an identity crisis. Felt like my brain was taking me prisoner. My friends took me to Kansas City, where my mom lived, because they were worried for me. Things were getting dark. I remember my petite 110-pound mother leaning over me and trying to pick me up from the floor. And she took me to a place that was safe for me. It was Shawnee Mission Medical Center, where crisis therapists are trained well to know how to take care of somebody that's stepped into this part of their life. And 2 days into that process, a lovely crisis therapist introduced me to my self-care superpower. And that superpower is my journals. Journaling. I spent the summer with that newfound superpower rebuilding myself back in that small Kansas town where I grew up. I wrote what I was grateful for in that book every day. I got away from the world for a minute, and I slowly rebuilt myself. I rebuilt myself into a place that I could join amazing companies. I was employee 150 at Salesforce.com. With that newfound superpower, I built my way into a great career there for 10 years. My life's greatest work is my daughter. I was bawling my head off during the story earlier. Right, that superpower has stuck by me all through these years. And in that journey at Salesforce, I really started to, as we all do, build my identity around that success story. And so in 2011, stepped off the Salesforce train, stepped back into a phase where that identity was questioned professionally and otherwise. And I realized I'd forgotten about the power of that journal. I was in a casino in 2011 in the winter with way too much booze in my system, on my way to another business trip that I know many of us have gone on from airports that we almost forget about. My life at home was stagnant. My relationship wasn't where it needed to be. Financially, I was in no good shape. I was plateaued. We've all been in that plateau. And I'll never forget when I boarded a bus on my way to Reno Airport and I reopened a journal, almost like the exercise we had to do this morning, but less drama here. But I started writing in that journal what was so wrong with life. And 10 minutes into the ride, I turned the page, actually ripped it out. I was in the back. I was lonely on the bus. It smelled like sweat and smoke and casino. It was terrible on the bus. You may have been on those lonely bus rides on business trips. And I tore the page out about what was wrong, and I started writing down a chapter when I was on fire, when I was presenting like this, when I was inspiring people, when I was in charge of global sales training in various parts of Salesforce.com, and so on and so on and so on. But more importantly, I wrote down the antecedents to that fire. I wrote down why I was in that amazing spot, very dissimilar to where I was in that plateau on that lonely bus. And the two words that started to trend as my tears started soaking that journal My tears soaked that page, and the ink ran onto my work pants. And the two words were belief and energy. And I bought that URL on GoDaddy on that bus ride on the way to that airport, and I started to share my story because I knew part of my life's work was to share inspiring stories and help people find their stories. So that's why I think it's so ironic that I was introduced to Robert and his work. So fast forward to right now, I've got a baby on the way in 6 weeks. Box.org is going swimmingly. We're affecting the lives of tens of millions of people through the nonprofits that we serve. And I'll end by saying that I don't fill this journal with tears every night. I write in it every night, but it doesn't get my tears every night. What it does, however, is open a little bit more or unlock a little bit more wisdom every single day, and more importantly, my heart, my huge, enormous heart, knows what's best for me, right? But this journal lets these busy thoughts, the stuff that stands in my way, find the pages and not block where I'm going. Thanks very much for your time.
Bryan, thank you so much, and my tears soaked the page, brother. Thank you. That was an incredible gift to all of us. 5 words. 5 words to a story that only Bryan can tell.